Do you ever want to just climb up inside another wizard's brain and rummage around in there, see what kind of spells they have in there, and play with their toys? I know I do! Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. Another day, another video, baby! What are we talking about today? We're talking about this right here. But before we talk about this right here, we're gonna go back in time and talk about earlier wands. You've been wondering about wands? Because that's what we're going to talk about today. Specifically, wands that mess with people's heads. So instead of looking at the card that the video is about, we're going to start with a different card. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning of Magic. We're going to talk about the first wand in the game, which is not a mind screw wand. The only reason I'm bringing this one up is because it's just so wonky and terrible. Remember how we talked about Thanos in a previous video? Well, Thanos' wand is one of the most uninspiring looking wands I've ever seen in my life. It's like a light bulb on a stick that's just been painted gold or something. It's just so lame looking. So I just wanted to bring that up for contrast to show you the first wand that we had to deal with in Magic. And just so you know, there are very, very few wands in Magic the Gathering. When it comes to artifact wands, there may be some color aligned cards that I'm not thinking of, but when it comes to specifically straight artifact wands, there are less than 10 in the entire game, and 2 of them, including this one, just came in 2019 there, in the Magic 2019. So it's not like we've had a ton of wands. There are staffs and rods, scepters. For those of you who don't know, basically when it comes to wands, rods, and staves, they're all essentially the same thing, just different sizes. So wand is the smallest size, rod is the middle size, and staffs are the longest size. Obviously, the really tall ones you see wizards with, like Gandalf using. And also, I guess I should mention as well, for some people who may not know, scepters are not a different category. Scepters are just wand or rod sized, but they're used to denote royalty or official status in a government or something like that, right? So wands have not been like a huge part of Magic, but I feel like they should be because they're really cool, honestly. They're flavorful. It feels like it fits. I don't know if they were just avoiding it because it felt too tropey to them for the game, but I'm totally fine with it. So I was looking over Chaos Wand and I was thinking about how much I enjoy wands that mess with people's brains. There have only been 2 other ones in the past, and I actually played with both of them in my decks because I really genuinely enjoy the effects that both of them have. The first is, I'm sorry, dying here. Arr, 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 get death out of here! Have some nice strawberry lemonade. Okay, so Wand of Ith from the Dark, 4 colorless. And that's how much it costs. It activates for 3 and tap it. Check it out. It's got the old school T symbol, boys. That means tapped. That's what they used before this squiggly dig arrow. Now you have that, but back then you had the T. Makes me so nostalgic to look back at it. Okay, so look at 1 random card from target player's hand. If the card's not a land, target player must choose either. You know what? I'm just going to tell you how this works with the wording because it's worded clunkily. Basically, I pay 3 mana, I tap it. I pull a card at random from your hand. Now, you can pay life to keep that card. If it's a land, you can pay 1 life to keep it in your hand. If it's a non-land card, you can pay the casting cost worth of life to keep it in your hand. If you don't pay life to keep the card, you have to discard it. Pretty simple that way. I really enjoyed this card because it forces your opponent into interesting choices where it's like, okay, how badly do you want this card? And also, it provides you information. It's showing a card at random. So unlike cards like Disrupting Scepter, which you could use turn after turn to make your opponent discard a card, it wasn't at random. They would get to choose, right? With the Wand of Ith, you're hitting a card at random from their hand. So you're getting information they may not want you to have. On top of that, whether or not they're willing to pay the life also helps you determine how crucial that card is to their strategy. I mean, if somebody's not going to pay life for a copy of it, and it's a big card for their deck, does that mean they have another copy in their hand? Like, it's totally interesting. And also, I like situations where you put your opponent in a spot where it's like, okay, now you choose. Because it gives them the opportunity to make the wrong choice, a bad choice. And on top of that, this card has absolutely amazing artwork. Quentin Hoover, old school Quentin Hoover artwork is so cool. It's interesting to me that he chose to draw this character in white while also making the casing of the wand white. It's kind of hard to tell at first, but the way this wand works is it's kind of like, it looks like maybe it was made out of crazily gnarly wood that was grown for this kind of like, maybe grown around the crystal, but you can see it actually goes up and around his hand. All the wands in Magic are incredibly different and very distinctive, and I enjoy this. And this sort of thing, the way he's holding it out too, is very odd. Like, it's not being pointed directly at the person. It's basically like, I don't even have to point the wand at you. You just have to be in the vicinity and I activate this. I find it really striking. This artwork is mainly just white, pink, and black, and you don't see artwork like this at all anymore. But the idea behind it, where it's like, I'm going to use my wand, it's going to reach right out into your mind, grab something at random, and then basically force you to use your life force to not have it ripped from your mind. That is absolutely flavorful, and I've always enjoyed the concept of like mental domination and messing with other people's minds when it comes to Magic. So you're dealing with other mages, other crazy planeswalkers that are powerful enough to travel to different parts of different planes, gather up all this magic, and you can just reach directly into someone that powerful's brain and mess with it. I love it. So Wandavith was the first good Mind Screw wand that we got. Now, truthfully, over time, you will find that Disrupting Scepter is actually far more efficient. The fact that your opponent can choose to pay life to keep cards makes this card not quite as cool as it could be. On a side note, guys, this is one of the pieces of Ith. There is a legendary creature called Ith. I did a lore video on Ith, and I had completely forgotten about it until I saw this. Now, these old lore videos that I did, they're buried deep in the channel. A lot of people don't know about them. Some of them only have like 100 views. So I went and found them all, guys. There's 5 or 6 of them, and I tacked them all into the lore playlist. So at the end of this video, there's a lore playlist, and if you scroll to the bottom, there's 6 new lore videos with awesome editing. There's one on Ith, there's one on Feldon, there's one on Zurgo, and there's other cool ones there too. And on top of talking about real world magical artifacts like the Hell Vault, which I have. So check that out. Little side note. Let's move on to the next wand. The next wand that tickled my sack in a fancy way was Wand of Denial. And this one's great. I love it. 2 colorless, and it's from Visions. You tap it, look at the top card of target player's library. If that card's a non-land card, see, these wands, they used to care about the land, non-land thing for some reason. I never really got that, but I guess with this one in particular, actually, I shouldn't say that with this. I know exactly why this one says non-land. A couple of Wand of Denials, if you could choose lands, you could completely deny your opponent lands for the rest of the game very easily, considering back in the day, people would stack their decks, 2-card land, 2-card land, 2 cards land, and that wasn't considered deck stacking. That was normal practice done by everybody who played the game. So a couple of Wands of Denial would literally be like, you don't get mana for the rest of the game. So Wand of Denial is very cool. With a couple of them, you can actually deny your opponent the ability to get any more non-land cards, basically. Because with that 2-card lands, if you have a couple of these running, you can make them just run into land every turn. So yeah, it's just look at the top card of target player's library. If that card's a non-land card, you may pay 2 life to put it into that player's graveyard. And I played with life gain cards like Fountain of Youth, so it was easy. 2 Fountains of Youth in this, and 4 Fountains of Youth in 2 of these, and you could basically ruin somebody's draw like forever. You could just keep them under your thumb pretty easily. I really enjoy the artwork on this. It's crazy because to me it looks like the tip of it is almost like a little draconic hand. And whenever I thought about this thing being activated, I pictured that little claw, that little hand moving, and like the opposing wizard actually feeling the claws of it sinking into their brain and just not like it's just grabbing like surface thoughts. Basically, it's not grabbing the magic that's currently available to them consciously. It's weird the way that like the idea of your deck and the mind concept and milling works, because you have a situation where planeswalkers don't have access to exactly the spells and lands they want right away. So it functions in a way where when you're a planeswalker, you gain the ability to bond to lands and to bond to creatures and artifacts and all these kind of things, create these links, but you don't have the absolute ability to order and control these. All you can do is basically open the floodgates to let some of this magic into your brain, and random parts of it will come in, and there'll be more waiting to flow in, but there's just not enough room in a planeswalker's mind to hold any more magic consciously. So basically, this Wand of Denial reaches just into the surface of the subconscious and looks at what's about to happen next and goes, do I want you to have this? And can literally go, you know what, I'm gonna, and then it basically, the wizard holding it can look at what's about to happen and go, and infuse their life into it, like, I'll pay part of my life right now. And then the wand just grabs that and pulls it out of their brain. That is so incredibly flavorful to me. The artwork is really striking, bizarre. The background of it, I've never been able to figure out what the background is, but to me, that crazy like lightning and everything blasting out, that's the life force of the mage holding it, that's being sent out to obliterate the magic in the opposing mage's mind. I genuinely enjoy that. So that leads us to today's card, and that is Chaos Wand. Oh my god, do I love this card. Guys, I actually have a copy of it right here. It's going in my King Cube. This thing is really cool. So, 3 colorless and 4 untap it. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, then put the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of that library in a random order. Now this is again very cool. You get to invade your opponent's mind. I genuinely enjoy that. Also, it feels like something that should have existed a long time ago. Why wouldn't wizards want to make a wand that lets you harness what's going on in an opponent's mind? Now, granted, there's not going to be a ton of wizards who want to do that because this is a Chaos Wand. It actually kind of reminds me, for those of you who know Dungeons and Dragons, there's this thing called the Wand of Wonder. And whenever you use it, it has a completely random effect. There are other wands in the game, Wand of, like, Ray of Disintegration, whatever, all these things that do specific things. This wand opens doors. This wand summons demons, right? But the Wand of Wonder is named because, first of all, you wonder what's going to happen, but it does wondrous things. Some good, some bad, and some completely neutral. It could be like you pointed at your enemy and then he just sprouts some leaves out of him and it's like, what, I've got to trim this now? Like, but it could also be like, oh my god, the abyss opened up and a demon came out. It's very, very cool. So this has that sort of effect to it too, but only a madman would really use a Chaos Wand. If you don't know your opponent and you don't know what they're capable of, you don't know what kind of magics that you're going to be tapping into. I mean, the fact that you may cast it obviously makes it far less of a tool of an insane person. It would be truly insane to make one of these to tap into somebody else's magic and then just have it cast no matter what. And it's like, oh, oops, accidentally just completely ruined myself by casting something of my opponent's. But I love the fact that you get a bunch of information depending on how much you dig through their deck looking for an instant or sorcery off the top of this. So you get information as you point this at your opponent and it just digs into their mind and you're gaining all this information as the magic is just seeking out its target, an instant or sorcery, one-time instant effect that's about to happen that it can then capture and if you want to have go into effect. Boom. And if you don't, obviously, it all gets put on the bottom in a random order. So it's not like a milling kind of wand where you're not losing the other spells or none of that is happening, right? It's a situation where it's just digging through and the artwork looks absolutely incredible. This is the most interesting looking wand to me. At first when I looked at it, I was like, is the handle made of like fire and the tip of it made of ice or something? But no, it kind of looks more like there's some kind of like magma fire energy rolling through the handle, except down at the bottom where it's got some kind of other crazy like blue magic energy. Up at the top, it looks like lightning is running along the inside of the top half of the one, but when you get to the tip is where it gets really insane because it's got this crazy purpling going on, and then you've got all this little bit of lightning kind of happening right around the tip. There is like a little miasma, a little magic miasma, little purple cloud of smoke coming up off there, and all these little red random motes of chaos. The power in this wand is so insane. Like, this wand isn't even being used right now, guys. If you look at other ones, like, you can see that they've been activated, they'll be smoking at the tip or whatever. This thing is just, it's humming with so much energy that you can see it's stored in a locked box. Right now, if you look at the artwork, you can see that there's a bound box with a key in it that this thing is normally stored in because of the powers contained within it. The idea of having a wand, and instead of going, you know what? Instead of like, I'm going to summon up this dragon to come and attack you, whatever, just like unlocks this box, pulls out this wand, points at his opponent. All of a sudden, his opponent's mind is just getting ravaged as the magic is tearing through it. All of a sudden, and he doesn't, like, if they've never run into the Chaos Wand, they're not going to know what's happening. They're just going to know something is invading their mind, like looking for something, like a hunting dog just pawing through their brain looking for something. It's like, oh God, what is it looking for? And then it latches on to an instant or sorcery spell. And the person who owns the spell, the mind it's coming from, is going to be like, oh God, no, what are you doing with that magic? And it flows into the wand, and then along with the spell flowing into the wand, right? The ability to understand what the spell it is, because if you cast the spell from it, you're going to get to choose the targets. You're the one who's casting it. You're in control of it. So basically, what the wand is doing is it's stealing a random spell from your opponent's brain and transmitting the information to you as to how to cast it. So imagine that. Imagine this spell just gets pulled out of your brain and you look across the battlefield at this wand you've never even seen before, and you can see magic flowing into it, and you know that's a spell that just left your brain, and you see the mage just smirk at you and point the wand again instantaneously, and the spell just starts flowing out, and you know what's about to happen because it's your spell. The horror, the power, the majesty. This card is absolutely epic. I love it. We need more wands in Magic the Gathering, and I definitely need a foil one of these for the King Cube because this is gorgeous. So, my friends, go and check out the playlist of the other lore videos after you let me know what you think about all this. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get up to 10,000 subscribers because once I hit that, I can unlock the YouTube space, and they will let me film videos in the YouTube space using their equipment. So guys, we will get better videos out of this as well. Thanks for coming by. I'm saying goodbye, but I'll be back in 1 second. Told you I'd be back. I have to be, because I am welcoming my newest Golden Lord of Purple. Welcome, Sean Miller. Thank you for joining up on my Patreon. Good Lord, there's almost 60 of you guys over there now. This is amazing. Keep it up, my friends. I will see you guys tomorrow.
This is Large Midget and Perp. We just got done playing some Commander here at House of Cards in Syracuse, New York.
Best format.
Yeah, and together we are the Six Color of Magic. Hail Satan.
And I'm history, baby.